Today we wanted to speak to you a little bit about chemotherapy and our experiences with chemotherapy. Everybody's experience with chemotherapy is different, so we're not going to talk about drug names and all those kinds of things, but we will tell you how we felt, how we prepared ourselves, and some of the things we did to mitigate some of the side effects. We'll tell you some of the side effects we experienced and what we did to make them less painful, make them less of a burden to ourselves. Would you like to start, Wendy?
Okay, I started with 12 sessions of Taxol first. Initially, it was fine. You know, I just have a huge appetite and I keep putting on weight because of the steroid. My skin started to turn grayish, so I look dark. Towards the third session, I started having neuropathy, which is nerves issue on my hands. My hands started to have excruciating pain. It was so painful that I have to take a cloth and tie around my hand. I pull it so tight there's no blood flow so that it can stop the pain temporarily. Then I'll let go. I emailed my oncologist, and my oncologist said that this is too early. Usually people will have neuropathy towards at the 8th session, but I had it on the 3rd session because I also had fatty liver before my cancer. So he was quite worried, how come all this thing is coming onset at such a fast rate. So he told me this, that, I'm going to give you 2 medication, take this every day, and if your condition don't improve, you have to stop chemo, and then you must have mastectomy. So after I had my medication, after I seen him, I had the medication. When I went for my 4th session of my chemotherapy, he asked me how was it. I said it felt much better. I do not have the excruciating pain, but of course my nerves still feel a bit numb. So he said, okay, we can continue with it. So I continued with the chemotherapy. At the 5th to 6th session, I started having nausea, constipation, insomnia. So I can't sleep, I can't eat, I can't stand any kind of smell.
And it's overpowering. It's
yes.
like overwhelming. Any kind of little smell can trigger you.
Yes, can trigger you off. Yeah.
Nausea for days because of the one smell.
Yeah, I still remember my mom was cooking and I had to run out of my house because the smell was so strong that it makes me crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was drifting in and out of consciousness.
So what are some of the things that made you feel better during that time?
My friend bought me this diffuser, so I just switch it on at night.
For essential oils?
Yes. And then
were there any particular oils that were good, or just a mixture?
Just lavender.
Lavender.
Yeah. Other than that, my oncologist said I could not use anything, especially bergamot,
right?
Because it will interfere with the chemotherapy.
Right. That's one thing to be careful of. If you're going to use anything like that, do check with your oncologist first.
Yeah. Then, of course, my hair starts to drop after the second round.
Second round of chemo?
So instead of waiting for it to drop in patches, I shave off my hair. And
what was that like?
Sad. After 3rd session, the hair start coming out. It's not so scary because it's stubbles, so you can't really see the patches. So as I wash my hair, it just drop off, and every day when I wake up from sleep, I can see that there are stubbles on my pillow. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that was like after, so it was not so traumatic for me because I shave it off first. Yeah.
Was there anything else that made you feel better during that time?
Coffee beans.
Coffee beans?
Yeah.
You like the smell?
Yeah, I bring coffee beans everywhere I go. So coffee bean will help with my nausea. So I bring a packet of coffee beans. I put it in Ziploc bag or paper bag. Every time I feel nauseous, I'll take it out and I'll breathe in. So it helps to calm me down. So
right. You took anti-nausea medicine when you were having chemo, right?
Yes.
And do you think that the effect was not as strong as maybe it is in others, or what do you think happened there?
I think there's too many drugs inside my body that
at that time.
Yeah, that time. Yeah, because my liver index was too abnormal
Right.
that I think my body had to deal with too many drugs inside there. So I
Toxic
think,
load.
yeah, it's toxic overloaded.
So in that case, then probably something we can say is that yes, they will give when you do undergo chemotherapy, the doctors will give you a drug protocol to manage any kind of nausea or side effects. But sometimes you'll have to find solutions for yourself as well. Any other solutions? Any other tips before I share?
I think it's good that you use soap that is non-fragrant,
Yes.
and for sensitive skin, because
Yes.
at that point of time your skin will be very thin and it's very prone to rashes because of your low immunity.
Yeah, that's something that's really important. I went through chemotherapy as well. I went through 8 cycles of chemotherapy, but it was split into 16 sessions. So I did a similar protocol to you, except that I think for you, Wendy, you did chemotherapy, then surgery, then chemo again. Whereas I did surgery first and then I did chemotherapy. So during chemotherapy, some of the side effects that I experienced were nausea, definitely. Even the really great nausea drugs they gave me apparently didn't work for me. So I had to find my own solutions. A lot of things, meditation and tapping and all kinds of things. And again, I'm not a big meditator. I wasn't really big into tapping, but I was desperate. I tried the bands. I tried to eat ginger. I tried to have small sips of water and alternate them with small sips of ginger ale. I tried everything, but the nausea was pretty unrelenting for me. That's not to say that other people manage, other people do well on the drugs, but this was just our experience. So the nausea was one thing. Hair loss, it was a big thing for me because I had super long hair, longer than it is today. And I cut it short initially for the surgery. And yes, during the second session of chemotherapy, it all just started falling out in clumps. There are things you can do, wearing cold caps to preserve your hair and all those things, but I didn't feel comfortable doing that. I was like, no, if there are cancerous cells in my scalp, they will be dealt with. So I did that and then used it as an excuse to go and get some beautiful wigs, which I wore, but it was hard to wear wigs because your scalp gets itchy and you get hot, and unless you're used to wearing wigs, it's like something is sitting on your head. So that didn't really work out for me so well. So that was hair loss. I also got a lot of mouth sores. Because all the inside lining of your entire gastrointestinal tract is affected by the chemotherapy. The way that I dealt with this was using the magic mouthwashes, using a numbing cream inside your mouth. That you can imagine how fun that was at night, So when you're going through something like that, eat as many soft foods. I did a lot of ice cream. I did a lot of really soft pasta so that it wouldn't scratch the inside of my mouth. I stayed away from citruses because the acid would just sting, because it's like having sores. So overall, getting through chemotherapy is very doable, but you just have to decide to make the most. I enjoyed being super skinny. So I, bought really skinny clothes and thought, this is the one time in your life you're going to wear them, so enjoy. So I did things to make myself feel better, even though I was pretty miserable throughout most of it. What about you, Wendy?
I bought tons of beanies.
Tons of beanies, yes. She was a beanie queen.
Yeah,
so,
I bought many beanies to go with my clothes. And I think when you first met me, I have different color beanies on my head. So
we were creative about it. So if you want any tips or ideas about whether to wear beanies, whether to wear scarves, whether to get a wig, ask us in the comments or ask us by sending us an email to We Can Survive. The email address is all there.